So we mentioned how Israel has ties to the Syrian war and Israeli forces that were funding ISIS to be the kind of terrorist groups that were infiltrating the Syrian war that caused a lot of casualties. Well, the reason for it is because they want to create a buffer zone with Syria. And here's Netanyahu, the bloodthirsty genocidal warmonger, uh, saying that this is a historic day for the Middle East, that the toppling of Bashar al-Assad, another regime change, throwing off a democratically elected government, and having chaos thrive is a historic day for the Middle East. And here's what he means by that.
Tyranny in Damascus offers great opportunity, but also is fraught with significant dangers. This collapse is a direct result of our forceful action against Hezbollah and Iran, Assad's main supporters. It set off a chain reaction of all those who want to free themselves from this tyranny and its suppression. But it also means we have to take action against possible threats. One of them is the collapse of the Separation of Forces Agreement from 1974 between Israel and Syria. This agreement held for 50 years. Last night it collapsed. The Syrian army abandoned its positions. We gave the Israeli army the order to take over these positions to ensure that no hostile force embeds itself right next to the border of Israel. This is a temporary defensive position until a suitable arrangement is found.
So it's funny that he's bringing up a peace treaty between Syria and Israel in 1974 that no country can exceed past its boundaries. No country can, you have to have that kind of zone that keeps Syria, and Israel. Until he just said recently, just last night, we toppled that. So here is him admitting to the fact that he did not kept that peace treaty because people he supported, the Israeli forces of ISIS and people that he's backing through the United States, al-Nusra, al-Qaeda and stuff, were pushing this democratically elected government out. And now that the Syrian people don't have a government, they don't have a defense to keep this treaty. So now Israel can come in and do whatever the hell it wants because, hey, you have no person to back this treaty. So, hey, we can just do whatever.
Equally, we send a hand of peace to all those beyond our border in Syria, to the Druze, to the Kurds, to the Christians, and to the Muslims who want to live in peace with Israel. We're going to follow events very carefully. If we can establish neighborly relations and a peaceful relations with the new forces emerging in Syria, that's our desire. But if we do not, we'll do whatever it takes to defend the state of Israel and the border of Israel.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard that before when they mention about Gaza, how they wanted to have a peaceful kind of transition between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and how we just want to take down Hamas and not deliberately destroy all their communities. Oh, wait, that's what they did. So it makes me wonder if this is going to give me some sort of deja vu. Because, surprise, surprise, from Al Jazeera, Israel grabs land in Syrian Golan Heights, warns villagers to stay home. Israeli forces also bomb weapon depots in southern Syria and the capital of Damascus, Israeli media reports. Gee, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting that the leader is pretending to have diplomatic peace treaties with these nations, and then all of a sudden we overthrow their government, we take down their leader, and next thing you know, we storm in and take over their land? Where have I heard that before? So Israel has seized territory in Syrian-controlled areas of the Golan Heights as its military warned Syrians living in 5 villages close to the Israeli-occupied portion of the strategic area to stay home. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he ordered Israeli forces to come and grab a buffer zone in the Golan Heights established by a 1974 ceasefire agreement with Syria after a lightning advance by Syrian opposition forces ended Bashar al-Assad's rule. Netanyahu said on Sunday that the decades-old agreement had collapsed and that Syrian soldiers had abandoned their positions. No, you took over their leader. They have no defense now. You took down their democratically elected government. Now they don't have any representation. They have no defense to back this agreement that makes Israel have the leverage to do whatever it wants. So now they can just ignore this agreement. They did this purposely. And this is all part of the greater Israeli project. This is exactly what the Zionist cult movement wanted. It's never about Hamas, and it was never about October 7th. It was about finding a way to get people in egregious warfare, cause genocide, because one is obviously enough. We have to do more of it, and wipe out populations to seize control of territories. And funny, that's what they said about Arab nations. That's what they used to say about Arab nations. Oh, they just want to take control. Look at all the Arab countries that they have. Well, it's the Zionists just had this little skid mark that had to be given to us by the CIA and by the British monarchy. We just had this tiny little skid. We need to, grow. And the Arab nations, they take control over everything. Completely reverse. We will not allow any hostile force to establish itself within our border, he said. Israel captured a portion of the Golan Heights in the 1967 war and annexed it. In the international community, except for the United States, views it as illegally occupied Syrian territory. After Netanyahu's comments, the Israeli military issued an urgent warning to Syrians living in the Anafia, Quintera, al-assad, holy crap, that's a lot of syllables, Samadina, al-Jadaba, and al-Ka... I'm not even going to try. This is where you need to get like Norman Finkelstein in here to pronounce this, or maybe Aaron Mate. Aaron Mate would be good because he actually obviously done investigation work on this. All close to the Syrian occupied portion of the Golan Heights. Agricultural areas in the Israeli occupied Golan Heights were declared closed military zones, and some schools shifted to online classes in anticipation of unrest. Syrians poured into the streets, echoing with celebratory gunfire on Sunday after a stunning opposition advance reached the capital of Damascus, putting an end to the al-Assad family's 50 years of iron rule, but raising questions about the future of the country and the wider region. Joyful cheers gathered in central squares in Damascus, waving the Syrian revolutionary flag in scenes that recalled the early days of the Arab Spring uprising before a brutal crackdown and a rise of an armed uprising plunged the country into a nearly 14-year-old civil war. Netanyahu hailed the removal of al-Assad on Sunday as a historic day that followed the blows delivered by Israeli against Assad supporters, Iran and Hezbollah, in its recent war on Lebanon. Speaking of the Lebanese-Syrian border, Al Jazeera's Zain Basravi said that Israel was taking advantage of al-Assad's al-Assad's fall. What is happening is certainly to the benefit of the Israeli military. The Israeli government, Basravi said, they are getting what they have said that they want all along, weaker neighborhoods, so that we could push our regional agenda. So surprise, surprise. They always say that history doesn't always repeat itself, but it often rhymes, and now here it is. That it's about territorial regime. That's why Israel's involved in this. That's why all of a sudden they had to put money into creating these terror forces to cause this war, to overthrow Assad. Now they can remove that ceasefire agreement that gave them border protection on both sides, and Israel can intervene, which is something that they've always wanted. They want to extend territorially. They want to take over these governments. They want to take over these territories, and they want to build, again, part of the greater Israeli project, part of the Zionist cult movement. So here's Jackson Hinkle, who says, breaking, Israel has started their invasion of Syria hours after the fall of Assad. And there you go. So there's the Golan Heights. There's the Syrian border that they've created this buffer zone. And now, all of a sudden, here they go. Phase 1, Phase 2, safe zone goal. So they're trying to move territorially into this occupied, into Syria to take control over it. Which is something that they've accused the Arabs of doing. They always tell you that the Arabs are the ones that are doing it. They're the ones taking over land. Look at all these Arab countries. Look at all these dictators. You mean the countries that we overthrew the democratically elected government and installed dictators? Because of this. And here's some devastating pictures of it. Israel's destroying Syrian air bases, military and defense systems, intelligence, military and government structures. Basically, they're demilitarizing Syria. So, this is all intentional. This is all intentional. This is all part of their constructive plan to manufacture this war to the point that we control Syrian people to overthrow their government, and now that their government is overthrown, hey, we can just come in. We can storm in. We can take their resources. We can wipe out all their infrastructure and take control of their territory. That's what Israel's doing. That's what the United States is doing with their resources and any of the people that were backing this war. Because it was not at all a civil war. It was an intentional globalized warfare that they manufactured. So, and here's Fiorel Isabel, journalist for RT. She states, if you're still blaming Assad, you're an entire idiot. Zionist Israel won't stop at Syria. They'll go into Iraq, Lebanon, and destroy what's left of Palestine before they join NATO to get into Iran, who didn't act when it shouldn't have, then Russia, China, LATAM, I don't know what that is. Is that supposed to be Latin America? And the entire global south. Because, keep in mind, this is Netanyahu. This is someone who is installed purposely as the warlord of Israel to purposely follow the projections of the Greater Israeli Project and take over territory, slaughter and massacre entire demographic of civilians to seize military control, to seize geopolitical control, and take over territory. And this is the guy who's violated the most ceasefire agreements. This is the guy that violates the most treaties of peace. This is the guy who's breaking peace, who's breaking stability, who is jeopardizing the safety and security of nations all around the world. And the fact that we're giving this guy money, we're giving this guy assistance to then buy up politicians to make this okay. So much so that we have to demonize our own populations and possibly jail them. That's what Trump wants to do. He wants to jail college students that are protesting against this. They're calling out this warfare. They're calling out the war crimes committed right in front of our face. Just absolutely just devious and devastating and diabolical.